How does one come to terms with being trans, or at least stop the negative self-talk around it? Sorry for so serious a question. That is a difficult question to answer, especially for me, because I didn't have a lot of self-hatred, self-loathing, or talk down to myself over the idea that I was trans. The reason my own transition was as slow as it was because of a lack of severe dysphoria about being masculine. So I've talked about this elsewhere, but most trans people have a pretty strong dysphoria around, the body they're born with. And it feels wrong, and they push away from that so hard that in a way that propels them in their trans journey, whether they end up as, the opposing gender, as non-binary, whatever, but they are pushing away from where they started very hard. I never did that. And so my own gender journey has been a lot slower and a lot more meandering, but not because of any kind of self-loathing. I mean, the main thing, honestly, is get a therapist, get a gender-affirming therapist, someone who knows about that particular issue for you, and who will work with you through that. That's probably the single biggest advice I can give. But other than that, here's the one thing that I always say to anyone who's having trouble embracing themselves. The thing to remember is that if you are trans, that will never go away. That will never change. And pretending that you aren't, or trying to push it down, or trying to hide it, will only make your life harder and less joyous. But the one thing it will absolutely never do is change that thing about you or make it not so. Being trans, especially if you don't have a support system, can be very, very difficult. But if that's who you are, you will always be better embracing and living as yourself than as something you're not. Because whatever else you try to be, the fact that you are keeping something back and suppressing something about yourself is always, always going to cloud and dampen and weigh on every joy that life would otherwise give you. Being in the closet is drowning. It is slowly drowning, and you can't breathe. And getting your head above water doesn't suddenly mean that life is wonderful, magical, and rainbows, but it's where you have to start. You have to be able to breathe. If anything else is ever going to get better, you have to be able to be. So, I know it's hard. And it can be hard for a lot of reasons. It can be hard for logistical reasons. It could be hard for reasons of internalized confusion or ideas that you haven't been able to shake off. There's a lot of reasons why it can be hard. But the way in which it will be hard while being who you are is less than the way life will be hard while you try and clamp that down. So, I am going to hope for the best for you and find a therapist. I mean, it sounds cliche, but really, really, truly. So I hope that helped.